Here's my on-air plea to the Vice President Joe Biden campaign. It was great to have this sit down here with Senator Sanders. I came all the way to Vermont to meet with him to do this extended interview. I would happily do the same for you. Haven't talked to you at all since this campaign started. I'd love to. Just saying. All right.
So what you just saw there was Rachel Maddow a couple of days ago basically begging for an interview with Joe Biden. And this is emblematic of something we're all seeing right now. Joe Biden has cognitive decline. You know it. I know it. Donald Trump and the Republicans certainly know it. And the media knows it. And because of all of this, Joe Biden has effectively been hiding from the media, hiding from any potential scrutiny as much as he possibly can be. He's been doing it in this entire primary. And now that he finally has a lead via Super Tuesday, you darn well know his hiding is only going to increase. Joe Biden has gone to debates, Joe Biden has done events, but relative to Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, and indeed people like Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar, he hasn't done as many unscripted events that he hasn't had to do. Because every time Joe Biden gets in front of a mic or in front of a camera, we see the cognitive decline. We see that Joe Biden isn't the man he was 4 or 8 years ago. Whether you like Joe Biden or not, I wasn't a fan of Joe Biden 4 or 8 years ago, but the man was sharp. The man could make sentences. The man could defend his perspective even when you disagreed with his perspective. That's not Joe Biden anymore. Even at recent events, you can see it. Biden draws some crowds, not Bernie-sized crowds, but decent crowds, and he speaks for 7 minutes because they know that even in those 7 minutes, they're going to get a gaffe. Where he says that he's an Biden-Obama Democrat. Or yesterday where he basically said that you should re-elect Donald Trump because his words were that jumbled. These are just short little spurt events because they know Joe Biden isn't ready to be in front of a camera when he can't control every little last bit of it. Because these are his events. He's not taking questions from a journalist. He's not taking questions from opposition. He's not taking questions from citizens. And even here, he's awful. And this is not something that people are just starting to catch on to. Even last year, there were pieces from 2019 basically saying that Biden, when he was in the lead for pretty much all of 2019, should scale back his events because every time people see him, they know that he's in decline. He should only meet with the corporate bigwigs who know that Joe Biden's in decline but don't care because Joe Biden is the corporate husk that's going to carry them to the presidency so they can get what they want because it doesn't matter who's inside the suit as long as the suit takes care of the 1%. Regular people don't want to see that though. They want a president who they know is there. Media have been saying, not just Rachel Maddow, but CNN yesterday basically had a couple of journalists talking, basically saying that, Joe Biden is hiding away. He's got a lead. He doesn't need to show himself. He thinks that he can ride out the delegate math to a victory. And unless any big gaffes happen, he's going to beat Bernie Sanders. So his goal is to hide away. CNBC had an editorial just a couple of days ago basically saying that one of the things Joe Biden needs to do to win this primary is not participate in the primary. Just do as little as he possibly can. Scale back any potential meetings with Bernie Sanders, any potential meetings with regular people, and just meet the Democratic insiders and elites who, again, don't give a damn about Joe Biden's cognitive health. That's the strategy. Joe Biden has had medical records and he's had his tests and all of this and all of that, like all the other candidates. And a lot was made about Bernie Sanders and his medical records, which were fully comprehensive and done by multiple doctors from multiple institutions, all of them reputable. But no one's really talked about the fact that Joe Biden hasn't had a publicly released cognitive health test. He's had other physical tests. I don't doubt that Joe Biden physically is in good health for a man in his late 70s, but that's not what we're worried about. We're worried about his cognitive health. And this isn't just me trying to score points as a Bernie Sanders fan. It really isn't. This is about a man who I don't think is really up for what he's doing. And whether it's him deluding himself or those around him deluding him, it's not a proper exercise for somebody in Joe Biden's context. It doesn't seem like Joe Biden is being properly treated by those closest to him. And that makes it sad. And if you want to talk tactics, we have to be 100% real, guys. That you can hide right now. Biden's been very lucky with his ability to hide in this process. Because for all of 2019, he was the clear frontrunner. He showed up to the debates, he spoke very little, he rarely faced any major scrutiny, and the rest of the field sort of fought for second and third and fourth place throughout pretty much all of 2019. There were times where Bernie was second, then Warren was second, Harris had her brief moment, and then, in early 2020, Iowa and New Hampshire went really bad for Joe Biden, and he basically slipped down to fourth or fifth place in the math, and so all of the focus was on Bernie, Buttigieg, Warren, Klobuchar, and Biden sort of became forgotten. And even on Nevada, Bernie Sanders won that so handily that, Joe Biden finished in second, but no one was really talking about Joe Biden. And then all of a sudden, he wins South Carolina, which was expected. And 3 days later or so, he has a big win on Super Tuesday. And in 96 hours, he gets all of these endorsements, all of these delegates, and he basically faced no scrutiny for it. He could hide the entire time. It's really troubling. And now he's going to hide it out. And even the Democratic Party, there's a debate scheduled after this next round of primaries. Michigan and a bunch of other states, Washington, Missouri, they're all up, next week. But after that, there's another debate. It may well be the last debate. And the Democratic Party has shifted that debate around. It's not going to be a formal debate where you stand at the lectern and you get questions. It's going to basically be a sit-around where Bernie and Biden will take questions from the audience. Now, I don't want to suggest that, questions from the audience aren't real and aren't valid. But I think this is obviously a last-minute attempt by the Democratic establishment to give Joe Biden the sort of debate where his cognitive decline will be less evident than in this formalized debate style, and where Bernie Sanders and him will have a more directly combative style, which will give Bernie more opportunities to land blows to get back in the race. So by creating a more audience-centric, less formalized debate, the Democratic Party is trying to stack the deck in favor of Joe Biden. But after the primary's done, let's say that Joe Biden can hide away and skate to the nomination. This isn't over yet. I still think Bernie Sanders can win this. But let's say Joe Biden does that. What's he going to do on the campaign trail? He can't hide. He can't hide from the voters. He can't hide from Donald Trump. He can't hide from the national media focusing just on him and Donald Trump. He can't do that. The debates are not going to be shifted around to make them more friendly. They're going to be traditional debates. There'll be multiple debates. Can't hide. Won't be able to. And if he does, it'll look even worse than it does right now. And the genteel approach where the Democratic establishment is not talking about the fact that their front runner cannot say what he's running for sometimes, mixes up his wife and his sister sometimes. All of these things, time and time again, in addition to Joe Biden's regressiveness on gender and race issues that have played out over the long history and over recent history. They're willing to hide that all away because, as we've noted on this channel, sure, they want to beat Trump, but they'd rather lose with Biden than win with Bernie. And so they just got to beat Bernie. We need to get this message out to folks that Joe Biden is not well. He is not up for the task mentally. It is not fair to Biden. It really isn't. It's not fair to this man, who, whatever you think of him, had a long, distinguished career. It's not right. And so I think that we need to share this info around. The Surfs did a really good video, I'll post a link in the description, sharing 10 minutes of Biden gaffes from relatively recent history and from the far past, noting that this is not a man with his viewpoints and with his mental well-being that's in a position to take on Donald Trump. If you want to defeat Donald Trump, and I know the Democratic establishment would rather lose with Biden than win with Bernie, but I know the millions of Democratic Party voters don't want that. You need to get this word out to all your boomer friends and your old folk friends on Facebook and everywhere, because the media is not covering this sufficiently, that Biden is not well, and that if you want someone sharp and driven with good values and a good organization to defeat Donald Trump, it's Bernie Sanders.